The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other shore. A scribe approached him and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus answered him, "Foxes have dens, and birds of the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head." Another of his disciples said to him, "Let me go first and bury my father." But Jesus answered him, "Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead." The Gospel of the Lord. How many different ways can Jesus say, essentially, that I have to be first? And that is kind of the message of this encounter with these two would-be followers. Jesus is making sure they understand the demands of discipleship. I was reading a reflection on this gospel, and it highlighted the fact that burying the dead was a very solemn and sacred responsibility in Judaism, and it remains to this day. And it's one of the corporal works of mercy to bury the dead. But there's another element to what's happening here, or at least one other element. It's essentially, let me go and live with my father until he dies. Now, how long is that going to be? We don't know, And there's always an excuse. That's kind of the thing. There's always going to be an excuse. If you start making excuses for when you're going to follow Jesus, there's always going to be an excuse. So that's one component of what's happening there. And then the other component is there's a similar request between Elisha and Elijah, okay? In the Old Testament, when the prophet Elijah is going to give his mantle to Elisha, Elisha says, "Let me go bury my father," and Elijah says, "Go." And Jesus is saying the demands of the new covenant are higher than the demands of the old covenant. So there's a contrast there. So it's a mysterious gospel. But I will sum it up in these few words. Jesus says, "Me first." That your allegiance to me has to come before all other things. I wear the red garment of a martyr, St. Irenaeus. St. Irenaeus lived a long, long time ago, 2nd century, and he shed his blood for the faith. He put God first. We have a tremendous tendency, if you will, to put ourselves first, to put the flesh first, to be confused about the call to follow Jesus. In the letter, or in the book of Genesis today, we have a tremendous lesson in prayer, and it is a lesson of persistence. Abraham persisted in his prayer. It almost kind of became difficult to listen to after a little while. Okay, how many more, how much further are we going to go down the number? Now, God did not find 10 righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah. There clearly was kind of a cultural collapse. A cultural collapse. If you keep reading the story, you will find that they were destroyed. That the sin was so grave that there was a cry out to heaven. We must learn to put God first. We must recognize that Jesus was crucified and St. Irenaeus was killed and John the Baptist was beheaded, and the call to follow Jesus was radical 2,000 years ago, right? And it's radical today. And so we pray for the persistence in following Christ, even when the culture around us is in collapse. And we pray that we would not be a would-be follower of Jesus, but that we would follow Jesus.